right. Thank you so much, Carmen, for those headlines. They're very, very heart-wrenching story there out in Brett. Quite sad. Gentlemen, welcome. And thank you for coming around so late at night.
Thank you.
I thought we'd do this different. I've had all of you in different times, during different times when we hit a crisis, especially load shedding or some dramatic thing happens at Eskom, always full of views about what needs to be done. All of you have interacted with Eskom in different ways over the last couple of years, either by working there or being consultants there or just being commentators about the situation or energy experts. So I thought, why is it that with all these ideas that are floating around, we're not getting Eskom right? Right? Does it mean that the people there always, once they're inside, they close the doors and they only listen to themselves? And so, following the resignation of Jawo Mabuza and now the calls for the whole board to be fired, I thought, okay, maybe they must look at all these people who have all these ideas to bring them on board, to be on the board, right? And I thought, okay, the way we're going to do this now is, and I know all of you can be long-winded about things because you have views. We don't have that time tonight. Tonight, we pretend we are in an Eskom board meeting. If indeed you are on the board of Eskom and you are in this first board meeting and it just happened that it's only the three of you on that day, you're correct, right? I want us to, in the first segment, to answer the question, what should be the top 4 things on the agenda of that board right now, given all that you know, all that you have experienced, right? What are the 4 agenda items? We'll then use the remaining time to tackle each of those items in turn. And by midnight, we'll have a set of solutions that look like decisions of a board that must arrest the current crisis, right? I hope we understand how it's going to work. So I want you to be business-like and like in that board to make key decisions that can take Eskom out of its current crisis. Right? I know that the agenda for a board meeting of a new board that just come in will probably be 30 items. But at the end of the day, what are the 4 key priorities of that board? And then we're going to take each of them, and hopefully at the end of each segment, we can come with some kind of a model solution for that area. Then we move on to the others. And then we'll take that podcast and just share it with the current board, the minister, and whoever cares to listen. Because sometimes you talk so much, they don't know where to start listening. So we'll just sort of condense it for them in an hour. I hope that's clear, gentlemen. Adil Nchabeleng, Matshela Koko, and Ted Blom joining me in this mock board meeting. Right, let's start with the agenda now, gentlemen. What should be on the agenda, Matshela? Leaders, what should be the items on the agenda?
JJ, 2 things. One is to get the public off our back by doing the right things. We need to start focusing. Focus on our people.
Yeah.
The people that are the coalface.
Yeah.
Make sure they're inspired, they're motivated, that they look forward to going to work.
You mean the people of Eskom?
The people of Eskom.
So the item there would be what? Staff morale and motivation.
Staff morale and motivation.
Right. We'll come to how we're going to do it. For now, I just want to identify the items. So the first item is staff morale. The second item?
The second part of the item is to improve the energy availability factor, because we need to be able to keep the lights on. The demand is low. We have Midupi, we have Kusile, we have Ngula. There is no reason why we cannot provide certainty of electricity supply to our people.
So we call it energy availability factor.
Yes.
So we'll zone into those issues. Yes. Gentlemen, are you happy with those 2 items? Right. Okay. What will be your item?
Okay. So I think the most critical issue at the moment is to import more power to give you the space to do the repairs that are necessary, which haven't been done for quite a while. So the import.
Would that not fall under the energy availability factor?
Well, you'll improve that eventually, but to get that improved, you need space to do the maintenance. And the current
would the item there be maintenance then?
No, the item is import. Supplemental power, yes.
Import of supplementary power.
Yes.
All right.
Around about 5 gigawatts, my estimate is. And the second issue is to address the long-term coal supply situation.
Long-term coal. Okay, you gentlemen agree on those 2 additional items?
Yes, we will deal with them, as you say.
All right. Adil, anything else that's not covered by the 4?
I think at this stage, look, from a board point of view, you need to remove the importation because Eskom is not in the business of importing, it's in the business of generation. So maybe park that. It will be an item that can be entertained once the key focus of the utility has been resolved. One thing is finance.
Yeah.
Which is,
would that be a separate item to say finance?
Finance is critical.
Dealing with your debt?
Yeah, the whole overall aspect of finance.
All right.
Where you're looking at the revenue, you're looking at the debt, you're looking at the aspect of how you're going to capitalize and...
So finance. So basically we've got 5 items then, gentlemen, right?
Yeah.
Focus on people, the staff issues and morale.
Yeah, manpower,
Yeah, secondly, energy availability. Thirdly, the importation of coal, as you suggested.
Importation of emergency power.
An emergency power.
Yes.
All right. And then the long-term, you said long-term coal supply.
Yeah.
And then you raise the issue of finance.
Yeah, put it under procurement, coal as well as...
Where must I put procurement?
Procurement, the coal. Remember, coal goes with diesel.
Yeah, but does it fall under the finance item?
No. Procurement of coal, the renegotiation of contracts, costing of coal. So you need to put it into that procurement. And the aspect of cost, your maintenance, your engineering, your other primary cost-related issues. So it can be under procurement. And then the coal being the key one becomes the driving factor.
All right. Okay, gentlemen, we're going to take a break. After the break, you'll now lead us on the first item, right? And the idea is what are the solutions, what needs to be done, right? And then we get the other board members, so to speak, to comment on that. Let's take a break. And after the break, we carry on with that conversation. Mock Eskom Board Meeting in session here on your view Newsroom Africa. Now, item number 1 on the agenda is the issue of staff morale. Oh, please lead us on that item. What should be done?
First, recognize that the average experience of Eskom engineers is 10, 15 years up to 20 years. So we do not have a skills problem in Eskom. Eskom people do not leave Eskom. Eskom is being the employer of choice for engineers. If you go and look at the surveys, and Eskom continuously wins the best employer of choice for young engineers. So the story that Eskom does not have experienced engineers is not backed up by the evidence that's there. That's one. But 2, every time Eskom is in a crisis, every time, historically, and I'll go into 1 or 2 of them, the only people that solve Eskom crisis and steps up is its employees. They punch above their weight, they stress themselves, they become unreasonable. You know, when we, in the late 80s, when we ran out of capacity and our EAF dipped below 70%, we even planned a power plant called Lekwe in the Vaal. And everybody was beginning to panic that we're going to run out of capacity. Then Bruce Crooks came up and said, the cheapest megawatts that you have, the cheapest megawatt you can get is what you have, and it's locked up in an availability. Go and inspire your people so that they unlock that unavailability. And we set ourselves a target of 97.3, 90% availability in the year 2000, and we achieved it in 1996. And the only difference is that Eskom staff and Eskom people believed in themselves. When we were load shedding in 2006 and we had the Cape crisis, it is the Eskom people that took us out of that crisis. Others blamed it on sabotage, but we knew it was not sabotage. We knew it was non-compliance to the clean conditions. They stepped up. When we get into trouble in 2008 with the wet coal incident, it's the Eskom staff.
It's analysis that the morale is down now. Let's start there.
The morale is down. And I think every pronouncement that we make as leaders of the people, we put an indictment on them. They are corrupt. They are, everybody's good except our people. The people that carried Eskom for years come second best now. What is Eskom's people? They're sabotaging us. They pull in a wire at Tutuka and 2,000 megawatt disappears. We cast aspersions on this resource that we have.
How do we change that?
Unlock
gentlemen?
them.
Can you just come in there and bring it to concrete things, 2 or 3 concrete things that should be done to raise the morale of the staff? In the first place, if you agree that that morale is low.
Look, the first thing is there's this ongoing threat that always hangs over Eskom employees, that they are overpaid and they are producing low-quality value work, which is wrong. We've argued it that Eskom employees are not overpaid because, first of all, there isn't that much. You know, when people say 46,000 employees is a lot for a 47,000 megawatts capacity utility, is actually misrepresenting because we know Eskom operated with far much more than that in the 80s, in the 90s, and nobody wants to reflect those realities. So some of the things, as Koko is saying, that you cast aspersions on the workers, it drives the staff morale. But to improve staff morale, one, start appreciating. I mean, each and every power station has workers. Nobody ever refers to Eskom as having units like power stations, power station managers, which needs to be appraised, which needs to be known, which needs to be actually profiled in terms of their great work they're doing. It's power stations that are producing the electricity. We don't even know a single power station manager in South Africa. You've heard about every aspect about energy. You've heard about the people who are actually producing electricity. The only time it refers to engineers, people are referring to experts within Eskom, is people who are either on a consultancy basis, on the board, on the executive level. But nobody talks about the senior managers, power station managers, the senior technicians, the senior engineers, people working on a day-to-day basis that are doing that. So aspect of staff morale can be improved on those levels. And the other thing is, when an aspect of load shedding happens, it is not caused by employees. We know what is the causes of load shedding. But when you keep on referring it to an employee crisis and the sabotage aspect of it, it's very problematic because why would you have somebody who depends on this particular utility sabotaging it? Sabotage always happens from an external point of view. This is what I understand and this is what I know.
All right. Can I come to you, Ted, in terms of whether, given the cloud that's hanging over Eskom about it being possibly divided into 3 entities and so on, right? Can that be part of causing staff panic, that that they may believe that they may lose jobs? And so when you talk about motivation, you know, they actually don't see that motivation because there's so much uncertainty, changing of boards, chopping and changing of executives. How do you get around those things and still keep the staff motivated?
Okay, so I think you're right that it's unsettling for staff to have to move into new entities, and they probably see it as part of a rationalization drive. As far as sorting out the wheat from the chaff as far as Eskom staff are concerned, my view is a little bit different. As much as I agree that staff have to be motivated to go the extra mile, especially when you're in a troubled situation like we are now, we need to just recognize that the corrupt elements within Eskom, and there are many of them, and to deny that is to deny the fact that Eskom's got internal problems. We need to be able to sort that out so that the people that are left at Eskom are proud, working engineers, specialists and technicians or whatever they are.
But how do you do that? In the process of doing that, don't you then fall into the trap where staff feel victimized, you know, denigrated, etc.?
Well, I don't care.
That with suspicion.
I don't care if the corrupt staff feel victimized. They don't belong there in the first place. And they've lost their seat in the Eskom boat. If you want to have a morally robust organization that's ethical and is doing its best and serving the nation, because that's Eskom's role, it's the growth element of the nation, then we need to find a way to discriminate between the people that are corrupt and not making a contribution and the people that are there to actually do a fantastic job. And there are many of those people.
Do you gentlemen agree that there's an issue of corruption that needs to be dealt with, even in the context of trying to motivate others within the Eskom staff?
JJ,
what's that?
Eskom has got 46,000 employees. Don't dare go out there and say 46,000 Eskom employees are corrupt. You are wrong. There are corrupt elements. Whip them out. Be decisive. Let them go to jail. Let me give you the DNA of Eskom employees. I've been there I've associated myself with Eskom for 31 years. Eskom people are engineers by heart. They work for the leader they can associate with. If Eskom employees think you're not competent, forget it.
You're in trouble.
You're in trouble. If Eskom employees think that, hey, Diamond Kelipara, he knows his work, they're going to wake up and they're going to work for you. The problem of this new leadership, they've put a leadership at Eskom, and the Eskom perception about them is that these people are...
They don't know what they're doing.
They don't know what they're doing. Eskom staff wants to have a conversation with their leaders. They want to feel listened. At the end of the day, you are the leader. You will make the final call. But they want to walk out of your office to say, hey, that guy engaged me and he made this call.
And your assessment now is that that has disappeared.
It is gone.
And part of the solution is to reinstate that conversation between the leaders and those who are the professionals, experts, engineers, etc.
Exactly. There's another part of the DNA of Eskom staff. They are very competent and they push the boundaries. They go out there to push the boundaries. But when you push the boundaries, you are bound to make mistakes. And people have been fired in this new leadership for simply having made mistakes. They go out there. You know, Eskom is a 24/7 business. When something goes wrong, somebody must be willingly wake up to go to work and get to work
in the middle of the night.
And get to work and take his own decisions. And sometimes he makes a mistake. The leadership needs to be able to say, he's made a mistake, he's not criminal.
Okay, we'll have to move off this item now. Adil, I'm giving you the last chance to sum up what we do on staff morale. Just give us a high-level summary.
I think we've summarized it. Staff appreciation. You know, these are the people who are actually generating you the revenue and the income you need, which means they are really your capital asset. So you need to start treating them with that relevance and importance. Stop actually labeling them as a cost and as a useless component to the utility. They are extremely vital. Without Eskom staff, and nothing works within Eskom. Recognize them that today we are sitting on this program, we're enjoying these lights, because somebody else is sitting up right now, making sure power stations are running. So appreciate them and give them a real good pat on the back for the great work they're doing.
And then the corrupt element, what do we say about that as a board?
The corrupt element in any organization, you discipline and you deal with the issues where you need to prosecute, you prosecute. We have not seen a single prosecution of one single corrupt element in Eskom. Why? So some of these assertions that there is corruption and everything, until proven, and until prosecuted, and until successfully brought to the law, you cannot be passing such aspersions towards people, because all you're creating is this incompetency that black people in the majority are corrupt, because 46,000 of those employees happen to be black in the majority. So not all black people are corrupt. And these aspersions must be stopped, where we're saying, as black people, we are proud, we've worked for these entities, and we work and we give our lives to it because we respect ourselves as a nation and as a people. So appreciate them.
We're happy with that summary for the first item. Can we move to the energy, what is the energy availability issue? Who wants to lead? Can you lead on that?
I want to do that.
You want to lead?
I need to do that. This is,
put your proposal on the table.
Once you are, dealing with stuff is a very, very tough challenge. EAF is a technical issue, it's an easy part.
Okay.
Now, the integrated resource plan plans on the basis of 85%. EAF, JJ, and I feel very passionate about it. It's a maintenance issue, right? And we have created a lot of excuses out of it. That the plant is old. The plant is 37 years old. And because the plant is 37 years old, it has to break. It's got to be unpredictable. From engineering point of view, it's false. And again, Eskom people sit and listen to their leaders, going to TV and say, our plant is old. And because
I'm saying it shouldn't matter that the plant is old.
From engineering,
let's
put it this way, JJ. We are engineers. In all respect, it's nonsense. To engineers, when somebody starts talking about age of plant, he's giving an excuse. And let me back it up. 2016, 2017, the fleet was on average 35 years old. It never load shed. It never did. Now, let me tell you a story. And I hope the recipient of these discussions will get it. It is only critical components of your power plants that fails. You have to identify them, and we have identified them. They are linked with what we call a planned maintenance tasks. which are in SEP, right? So it's there. So all what you have to do as this board is to make sure that critical components do not fail in an unplanned manner. Now, once that happens, I get to the next point.
All right,
let me
hang on.
No, but I have to say this.
Hang on this point. I have to pay the bill now, but I'll give you a chance to revisit that point straight after the break. We're in a Eskom board meeting, mock Eskom board meeting, or item number 2. Stay tuned for the deliberations by Matshela Koko and the team on that point straight after the break. All right, our mock Eskom board meeting continues. Matshela, you are on the floor.
Yes, and quickly.
Yes.
We used to plan when the plant is new on what we called 97-3. 90% availability, 7% planned maintenance, 3% breakdowns. The plant was new. 2012, we recognized that the plant is aging. We changed our planning regime to 80-10-10. We said the size of our fleet should be maintained easily, successfully, within 10% of the time. JJ, we have, in the last 5 years, exceeded our maintenance time. In other words, we've done more maintenance in the last 5 years than any other time.
Sure.
So we do not have a capacity problem because our planned maintenance factor is more than 10% for the last 5 years, which means maintenance, PCLF is cost, which also means we do not have a cost issue for maintenance.
Yeah.
This is an experience.
So what is the problem? Why are we having load shedding?
We are having load shedding because we are not doing the right quality of maintenance. The right quality of maintenance comes out of an informed and experienced crew. In 2013, when we realized that the plant was aging, we created what we call a centralized maintenance services. We took our best engineers and said, this plant is no longer young. This plant requires more care. We must take our best engineers, there are few, centralize them, let them monitor the conditions of our plant and the engineering specifications of what we need to do during outages. We went a step further, JJ. We said, because the plant is old, we must do modular replacements. We must take big parts out of the plant. We build a new workshop. We place 5 billion rands contract with Alstom, 5 billion rands with Siemens. We build a new workshop at Rocheville. So we're taking out all the components. We fix them away from the plant. We're focusing on the critical components that should not fail. That's in place.
Has that stopped? Because I want us to come to why is that not being continued?
I'll tell you why it stopped. At the peak of it, when we were performing, came the concept of state capture. The centralized maintenance services reported to a gentleman called Matshela Koko, who was captured. When he was displaced, the entire organization was assumed to be captured. It was demobilized. There is no longer a centralized maintenance services in Eskom today. Now, from engineering point of view, you cannot maintain a fleet as big as Eskom, as old as Eskom, without a centralized maintenance services.
Okay, let's park there. So it seems to me that the decision we need to revisit is to reinstate centralized maintenance services. What's your view, Ted?
Okay, so I think what we need to distinguish, and it's fine that Mr. Koko wants to reinstate some of the functions that he pioneered. The fact of the matter is today, Eskom is broken. It hasn't got space, it hasn't got the repairs in place. Those repairs take between 1 and 2 years to plan and to execute. You need to create extra power in that time. As far as plant conditioning and monitoring, it's a condition that shouldn't even be questioned. He's 100% right. It's like having your racing team. You're riding the Formula One, you've got your racing team at your support staff in the backup, and they're constantly monitoring your gears, your revs, your temperature, your brakes. You need to have that function, that capability we're now in the 21st century. We're no longer in the 18th century where we wait for a thing to break before we actually take action.
Yeah.
If we put Mr. Koko's, implement his idea,
yeah.
we will be able to do lifetime monitoring and we will be able to predict breakdowns and run...
So you agree that the key decision the board must make is to say, re-establish urgently a centralized maintenance program.
But that's not going to solve today's problem. Today's problem is we don't know whether tomorrow we're going to have load shedding or not. And to take that fear away and to stimulate the economy so that we can push up sales and get some of the revenue finance issues sorted out, I'm saying bring in the extra supplementary power on an interim basis so that we can create space, we can start implementing what Mr. Koko... Because now if you start doing that, you say, and you do...
How do you bring supplementary power? What decision needs to be made in that regard?
You fly in turbines. They do them around the world and in humanitarian situations, earthquakes, tsunamis, typhoons. They fly in the power, and if you know where your strong points are on your grid, you connect them there and you have power within hours.
I've never heard of this. Has this ever been explored at all by the current leadership?
Even the president's talking about power barges. I wouldn't go the barge route. It's just a technology choice, but I certainly would bring in extra power. Because to implement what Mr. Koko is saying, is going to take some time. It's not a solution for tomorrow morning.
JJ.
Yeah, okay. Before you come in there, let me give Adil a chance there. What resonates with you? There are two proposals on the table here, which I don't think they are mutually exclusive. Re-establish the central maintenance services, bring in supplementary power from outside.
Yeah.
What's your take?
Maintenance services is critical. If you have heard our speech for the last 2 years about Eskom, we've only been focusing on maintenance and maintenance and maintenance. Even the Minister of Public Enterprise knows that the critical factor, including the Deputy President, by the way, he picked it up and he says the critical factor within Eskom's breakdown of power plants has always been maintenance. So maintenance services is not even excusable. Why there's no budget to it, I don't understand. The aspect of bringing in emergency power is a supplementary element. It's not the core, right? It's not something that should be the focus, because the minute you procure out, you are going to now starve.
But is it either or? Is it either bring supplementary power or...
It's not even either or. Both? No, forget either or, JJ. We already have supplementary power out of the current system that is already operational, one. All right, we already have right now diesel generators running in the middle of nowhere, pumped in order to pump the current emergency power we need. They're not telling the public about it, by the way. There's currently diesel powers generators running on a private basis, and there are companies that are supplying that particular power right now to just bring about that feed into the grid. So that issue of emergency power, I would say, as we already indicated it, as a packed item for really the last mile and solution. But right now, what you need to do within 3 months, you can resolve some of these issues and bring what Koko has been saying, energy availability factor, focusing on maintenance, ensuring that we can do away with the current load shedding crisis by making sure that power plants operate. Cuba, they're still running cars out of 1960. You know why? They fabricate their own parts. They model their own, workshops to make sure that they can always service parts that are even as old as 100 years. Their power stations are not brand new. They are not turbines that are brought in within seconds can be generated. They are operating old machinery. Machinery has always been workshop-based. If you don't maintain, you're not going to get output and power. So the aging of plant is a critical thing that must be identified. Plants, because they age, do not get thrown away. Units and components part of it, as well as sections of it, gets remodeled, get refurbished, can replaced, new technology gets interfaced, and there is an improvement of performance. So we shouldn't be caught up in this aspect of it. You already have an asset. When you have a house that is leaking on the wall, do you go and buy in an emergency room elsewhere? So let's be practical. Let's repair what is available right now, which is a critical. 3 months we can get an energy availability factor upped if the right things are done.
All right. Matshela, you were burning to say something after Ted talked about turbines from abroad.
JJ, you understand this business, you understand your degrees of freedom. Your flexibility is extremely limited. There are things you can do, then you've got many wishes and wants. You can't do that. Bringing in extra capacity is not an option you have.
Why?
If you want to do it. Again, it comes from the experience that the organization has. When we were in the middle of load shedding in 2014, we went to look for additional capacity.
Yeah.
I personally signed 800 megawatt of it at a cost of 8 billion rands. That's easily 2% on the tariff. The consumer is not going to allow. You just will not have the money to increase the capacity. It's a nice thing to talk about. You know, there are many talks I listen to and say, this guy, he's just excited, he talks. It's not an option. Yeah. Eskom is not going to afford, with government and me and you, out of the table. JJ, we have to talk. You've got 46,000 megawatts.
47, yeah.
You are doing more than 10% of maintenance. In well standards, JJ, we've got benchmarks. 10%, more than 10% of maintenance globally is sleeping on the job. When you hear somebody says, my plant, and I'm talking to Eskom now, my plant capability loss factor, Praveen, you are listening, I hope he is more than 10%. It means you do not have money problem because your money is locked into that PCLF of over 10%. Yeah. It means you've got enough maintenance space. All that you must then do is to make sure that when this car goes to the maintenance garage, when it comes out, it drives properly. Now, here is what the public is not told, and I know it very well. The units that are failing and causes us into load shedding comes out of the garage. They're just being maintained. You know, there's a gentleman I talk to every time. He asks for advice from me. He still works for Eskom. I mentor him. And I keep telling him, stop generating UCLF out of PCLF. It's a technical term. I'm simply saying to them, when you open a 22 kV breaker and you do your outage and you close that breaker, that unit must run to the next outage. Currently, it's not. So you have these breakdowns that comes out of the units that are being maintained. They are poorly maintained because the maintenance specifications are not being monitored by competent engineers because either they're gone or they're more demobilized. That's what...
All right. Unfortunately, I have to cut in there. You've got to give us the highlights because we've got limited time. Kat, you got the opportunity to summarize this item, right, in terms of energy. You've heard what your colleagues are saying. Can you summarize what needs to be done? What should this Eskom board do in as far as this energy availability is concerned? Okay,
I think we've got to put some timelines in. Yeah. What Mr. Koko is suggesting, I'd say, would be a medium-term plan, which is 3 months and longer. But to stave off the Moody's downgrade and to inspire this, people aren't switching on the plant because they don't know if they're going to have load shedding tomorrow. To re-inspire the economy that Eskom can actually deliver. I'm really passionate about introducing extra power until we can...
He's saying we can't afford it. Address that for me.
Well, you won't afford it if Eskom loses more sales because there isn't power tomorrow or next week. Then you really have, when people disinvest, and they do like some companies do, and go and beneficiate the stuff in Malaysia and other countries, then you've really got a long-term problem. The short-term problem is that if you bring a credible leader into Eskom, a credible leader will attract finance, and you'll be able to do the stuff. And then you just categorize it. Short-term, emergency stuff, longer-term, medium stuff, reinstate the EAF. I agree 100% with that. I agree 100% with Adil that the plant needs to be refurbished. You don't have to throw it away. Absolutely. But what I'm saying is there's a crisis on the table. And if this board doesn't take cognizance of the crisis, there won't be a long term.
Gentlemen, are you totally opposed to this whole issue of exploring supplementary capacity? Obviously, he's giving a caveat.
Just said there's already supplementary capacity, so we already have.
I'm saying you can wish, JJ. You can wish. You know, nobody will even borrow your money because your sales are declining. You have a cash flow problem. You are not generating sufficient cash from your operations to pay for your costs and to pay for your debt and your interest. So you are not credit worthy. So it's out the table. You've got to solve this problem, JJ, with the resources you have. And the resources you have is your people that must be inspired and motivated. It's doing the right type of maintenance. JJ, always, when somebody tells you about maintenance, don't listen to him. So when somebody talks about maintenance, he must also talk, he must say critical components.
Yeah.
This, I worked at Duva. Duva's got 3 million components.
Yeah.
Our leaders at Eskom are overwhelmed by the number of components in a power station. What they do not realize is that it is not these 3 million components that throws you over the edge. Is a 10% of the 3 million that are critical that you should never allow to fail.
Yeah.
When we have a conversation amongst engineers, we always say critical components must never fail under your watch. It's like when you drive in your car, you've got an alarm. You must never have an alarm that says stop now.
Yeah.
You must never.
Or your brakes are not working.
You must never.
Let's leave it there. So it seems like the board will have 2 options here, right? To be able to put the central maintenance, in a sense, program in place.
Maintenance service, yeah.
But supplementary capacity, you believe that it can still be a saving grace if we attract the right kind of funding because of the right kind of lead.
Well, absolutely in the short term, because we don't know tomorrow. Mr. Koko might not know. Mr. Nchabeleng doesn't know whether the power is going to be on tomorrow or next week.
Yeah.
Me as a smelter and a mine owner, I don't know. I can't send 6,000 or 10,000 workers underground if I don't know.
So the issue of confidence. Let's leave it there. We'll get to item number 3 now. The issue of, I think you raised the issue of importation of coal.
Long-term coal contracts.
Yeah, okay, we'll come to that now. Let's take a break. After the break, we continue the conversation with the mock board here on Your View. Let's take a break now.
Is it possible?